The Bible certainly talks about our need to limit our association with people who can corrupt us or be a negative influence on us. But to what extent? That's the question. Jesus said that we should treat our former associates, former brothers, as people of the nations and as tax collectors. What did he mean by that? At several places he was accused himself of being a friend of tax collectors. So he certainly didn't shun them, not in the strict meaning of that word. However, they do not behave the way Paul advised Christians to behave in 2 Thessalonians. It's basically the way we should apply instruction from the 1 Corinthians 5th chapter. Jehovah's Witnesses, actually in their shunning practices, are rather imitating Pharisees and not Jesus. In what way? Well, they treat the Disfellowship persons the same way Pharisees would treat the Samaritans. What do the Pharisees say about the Samaritans? Let's read the other verse. That's the verse from John 4:9. In fact, there was a quote in Talmud that taught that a piece of bread given by a Samaritan is more unclean than swine's flesh. Some Jews even use the term Samaritan as an expression of contempt and reproach. You remember that they call Jesus, "You must be a Samaritan." The approach of the Jews, and especially the Pharisees, towards Samaritans is exactly the way Jehovah's Witnesses are treating Disfellowship people. In order to correct the thinking of Pharisees, Jesus told a very popular parable of the Good Samaritan. To tell that parable to Jehovah's Witnesses today, who would be the Samaritan in the parable? Let's say a wounded Jehovah's Witness is lying on the road, and then a traveling overseer walks by and does nothing, and then a Bethelite walks by and does nothing, an elder walks by and does nothing, and then an apostate approaches and helps the guy. Jehovah's Witnesses have to see that Jesus' way of instruction is so much different from the one of the Pharisees. So how do nice people, like many of Jehovah's Witnesses are, turn to those nasty shunning practices? Well, it's all done gradually through the studying process that every newly interested person has to experience or has to learn. The quotes from the study material gradually make you accept a different kind of teaching. For example, the Bible Teach Book. What does the Bible really teach? Chapter 1, paragraph 22. As you learn more from the Bible, you may find that some well-meaning people will urge you to stop such studies. They may worry that you will change your beliefs. But do not let anyone stop you from forming the best friendship you can have. So you have to choose between God on one side and some other well-meaning people. So you continue your studies, and then you come to 12th chapter of the same book. By the time you have developed faith in God, you have done many changes in your life. As discussed in chapter 10, Satan uses various methods to try to turn people away from God. On the one hand, he attacks like a roaring lion seeking to devour someone. Thus, Satan's influence may be seen when friends, relatives, or others oppose your efforts to study the Bible and apply what you learn. The well-meaning people from the first chapter are now people under Satan's influence. The archenemy of God is now your partner, marriage partner, your brother, your sister, your mother, your daughter. A very special fear and anxiety appears in your heart. And you think you're being loyal to God by you distance yourself from them. And finally, the book that's also studied before one's baptism or right after the baptism, Keep Yourselves in God's Love, how to treat a disfellowship person. Stop keeping company with anyone called a brother. Check this out, a quote from Watchtower, September 1981. A simple hello to someone can be the first step that develops into conversation and maybe even a friendship. Would you want to take that first step with a disfellowship person? Not even saying hello. How does it compare to Jesus? Jesus' words, if you say hello only to your friends or to your brothers, what's a big thing that you do? You should say hello to your enemies as well to be a Christian. Is strict avoidance really necessary? Yes, for several reasons. First, it is a matter of loyalty to God and His Word. We obey Jehovah not only when it is convenient, but also when doing so presents real challenges. Love for God moves us to obey all His commandments, recognizing that He's just and loving and that His laws promote the greatest good. There's an interesting statement about the relatives being disfellowship, and you can again see the leaven of the Pharisees there. They, in fact, divide the situation when a person lives within your household, immediate household, or not. Since person, in some instances, this fellowship family member may still be living in the same home as a part of the immediate household. Since his being disfellowship does not sever the family ties, normal day-to-day family activities and dealings may continue. Yet by this course, the individual has chosen to break the spiritual bond between him and his believing family. So loyal family members can no longer have spiritual fellowship with him. In other cases, the disfellowship relative may be living outside the immediate family circle and home. Although there might be a need for limited contact on some rare occasions to care for a necessary family matter, any such contact should be kept to a minimum. Loyal Christian family members do not look for excuses to have dealings with a disfellowship relative not living at home. Rather, loyalty to Jehovah and His organization moves them to uphold the scriptural argument of disfellowshipping. Now, where does the Bible say that there's a difference between a family member living in your immediate household or outside of your immediate household? Who introduced these rules? Is it Jehovah or is it the organization? The same thing Pharisees did. Where does the Bible say that Samaritans are different from other Gentiles? Where does it say that tax collectors should be treated in this way? They would call denigrating people, they would call some illiterate people Amharites, or people of the earth, or people of the land, thinking of themselves as being higher. That's exactly what the Pharisees did. And this is the process of shaping the mentality and minds and hearts of otherwise nice and kind and loving people into a different being or a different creature. And this is where the story becomes scary. Well, it has become scary already. The book I like to quote that has so much similarities with the system I was in is George Orwell's 1984. Do not imagine that you will save yourself, Winston, however completely you surrender to us. No one who has once gone astray is ever spared. And even if we choose to let you live out the natural term of your life, still you would never escape from us. What happens to you here is forever. Understand that in advance. We shall crush you down to the point from which there is no coming back. Things will happen to you from which you could not recover if you lived 1,000 years. Never again will you be capable of ordinary human feelings. Everything will be dead inside you. Never again will you be capable of love, of friendship, of joy of living, or laughter, or curiosity, or courage, or integrity. You will be hollow. We shall squeeze you empty, and then we shall fill you with ourselves. This is a scary thing that happens to ordinary, loving people. They become robots of the organization. By carefully adjusting their minds, they are being conditioned to start shunning not just their former co-believers, but also their family members. Jehovah's Witnesses take pride if their parents not to answer phone calls of their children. They don't answer text messages. They don't return emails because the org, JW org, says so. And it's not the Bible. They think that it's God's will. Rather, it's a special kind of conditioning that has nothing to do with God or the Bible. Okay, so why does the organization shun people? Why the disfellowshipping? Of course, they say that it's because of love. They make you come to your senses. And in some cases, that may be working. But George Orwell's book has deeper insights. Winston Smith, the main character of George Orwell's 1984, is taken to the Ministry of Love for torture and questioning. He was asked by O'Brien, who's the main investigator, why did we bring you here? O'Brien exclaims, no. His voice had changed extraordinarily, and his face has suddenly become both stern and animated. No, not merely to extract your confession, not to punish you. Shall I tell you why we have brought you here? To cure you, to make you sane. You will understand, Winston, that no one who we bring to this place ever leaves our hands uncured. We're not interested in those stupid crimes that you have committed. The party is not interested in the overt act. The thought is all we care about. We do not merely destroy our enemies, we change them. Do you understand what I mean by that? Do we understand what it's meant by that in the organization? Interesting, I was a member of the judicial committees, and the person doesn't only have to stop doing the transgression. If he was a fornicator and he stops being a fornicator, that doesn't automatically mean that he's reinstated. There needs to be repentance. But repentance has more to do with your attitude being changed. You have to submit yourself to the judicial committee again, and you have to recognize the God's channel of leadership. You have to recognize the elders as the ones who will estimate your repentance. So it doesn't really matter what you do. It's about how you do it. And once you submit yourself to the leadership of the organization, then you are proclaimed repentant wrongdoer, and then you're being reinstated. So as George Orwell said earlier, the party is not interested in what you've done. It's your attitude towards the party itself. That's the thought that they're interested in, so scaringly similar inside of the Jehovah's Witnesses organization. This is also very scary. We have cut the links between child and parent, and between man, and between man and woman. No one dares trust a wife or a child or a friend any longer. But in the future, there will be no wives and no friends. Children will be taken from their mothers at birth, as one takes eggs from hen. There will be no loyalty except loyalty towards the party. There will be no love except the love of big brother. There will be no laughter except the laugh of triumph over a defeated enemy. There will be no art, no literature, no science. When we are omnipotent, we shall have no more needs of science. There will be no distinction between beauty and ugliness. There will be no curiosity, no enjoyment of the process of life. All competing pleasures will be destroyed. So that's the dystopian reality of 1984. Unfortunately, as a Jehovah's Witness, many musicians let go of their music, of their talents. Many people who are intelligent, they don't go to studies. Many people drop or cut their family bonds because they're not believing anymore. You all become the org. You become part of the organization that shapes you. And of course, when a person appears that defies those principles, you pretend that person doesn't exist anymore. They've evaporated. But it's not just a thing that you do because others supervise you. Unfortunately, it is the achievement of the org that it becomes part of who you are. And that's so shocking and so scary, that they're able to manipulate people thinking, people's reasoning and their minds, kind of a group mind control that eventually destroys families, destroys lives, puts God in a very bad light.